Hey, I'm back with some string bending tips. Some things that might help you improve your technique if you feel like you could stand a little improvement there. The most important part I think about this, and one of the things that people kind of overlook, is that it's fairly rare to see anybody try to bend with only the strength of their fingers. If you see them with their hand dropped below the neck and the fingers coming back up like this and then trying to push the string across the neck with just the fingers, I mean, it can be done, with practice. You can get your fingers strong enough, but you lose a few things along the way that are going to really help you with other aspects of that technique. So what I always recommend is the classic. This is certainly nothing I invented. I think I learned it from looking at a few old black and white pictures of Eric Clapton way back in the day to see how he was doing it, and certainly Jeff Beck on the cover of Having a Rave Up with the Yardbirds. That record, which is a great record, is worth it for the for the picture of Beck bending a string on that old Beat Esquire that he used to play. But the deal with this is that if you build yourself a hinge on the neck, and that hinge is going to be composed of a contact point here under the neck, okay? We're looking right around here. It can be as far back as the knuckle, or it can be out onto the next joint of the finger. But you're going to roll on that, and by doing that, I hope you can see that what you're doing is rotating your forearm and using your fingers then to push the string. So it's not really a matter of just finger strength. You can see my arm moving because that's where the muscle's really coming from, and then my fingers is basically a stick to kind of push the string to one side with. So anyway, that's an important part of the concept, is to get that rolling part of the hinge. Then when the thumb comes over the top, be careful not to bring it too far over, because that will pull your hand back behind the neck. What it's mainly there for is balance and stability, and also to provide some opposition for your fingers so that as you push your fingers across the neck. Remember, the thing about string bending is not only are you applying pressure down onto the fret, but also across the fret. So having your thumb there provides the opposition that you need to really drive your hand that way. But the muscle is coming from that rotation of the forearm, okay? So the next thing that is really important to think about with this is trying to always bend in tune, because a lot of people will be playing along and all of a sudden they feel the impulse to bend and they just kind of randomly grab the string and go nowhere with it, and it tends not to sound too good in the middle of a solo. So you want to think about the scale that you're playing. In this case, I'm playing the C minor pentatonic scale on the 8th fret of string 6, and I'm focusing on the top 3 strings and the bends that would ordinarily fall under the 3rd finger, and they're all whole step bends. So what that means you want to do, a good drill for training your ear if you need help that way, is to play what we call the starting note, which in this case is the 11th fret of the 1st string, and then move your hand up 2 frets. That's a whole step, and go back and forth between that note, or those 2 notes, a few times until you feel you've got that pretty well in your ear, and then go ahead and commit to a bend. And when you do that, I really mean commit. Don't fish for the note. Don't go, because you'll hit it there somewhere, but you need to be able to hit it and hang on it. So, okay, so what we're looking at there is this move on the 2nd string. Same deal though, starting note, the fingered target note, a whole step up. Okay, when you get ready, and the same move then on the 3rd string, 10th fret to 12th fret, and so you'll notice that as you play that the strings have different amounts of tension, to my hand anyway. And this guitar is set up, I think, with a standard set of 10s. They might be 9s. They are, no, they're 10s. This guitar is tighter on the first string than it is on the second string, and then a little bit looser still on the third string. Not huge differences, but enough that you have to learn to compensate for them. And also, it kind of drives home the point that you really cannot rely on how your hand feels when you're pushing the string, or if it looks like you push the string far enough to be able to hit your target pitch. Instead, what you have to focus on is making sure that your ear is telling you that you're right where you want to be. Okay? So now, when you do this bending too, another mistake that people make is often trying to bend with only one finger. And again, that's not necessarily impossible, and I'm sure if you watch enough YouTube videos, you can see somebody doing pretty well with that. But most people will choose to use what I call a buddy finger. So if I'm bending off my third finger here, again on the first string at the 11th fret, I'm going to have the second finger sitting behind it on the 10th fret of the first string. And then I get to enjoy the advantage of having two fingers there to really push that string. It's going to make it that much easier. You don't want string bending to be difficult because it's hard to play confidently if you feel you're really fighting the guitar too much. And then as sort of a finishing touch, a technique that works really well for me is it may look like I'm pushing with my first finger, but I'm not. It's just sitting on the strings, and it's extending about a string width further than the second finger and the third finger are, and that's helping me with my muting. So as I push the string across the neck, you can hear that I'm not getting any bumped strings, or at least not too many. And so that is partly because of the muting effect of having my first finger sort of get out there and play cleanup for me. So clean bending, finger pair for strength, bending in tune by first getting your ear in tune, okay, and then at the foundation of all of it, this hinge motion. A teacher of mine, the guy who really put me on the right path as far as I'm concerned for most of my guitar playing, pointed at the picture of Jeff Beck holding the Esquire on the Yardbirds cover for, I guess it was having a rave up with the Yardbirds. And basically his line to me was, hold the neck like this and wave bye-bye. So what your hand does is it goes back and forth, and by rolling on that knuckle, you can use the muscles of the forearm okay, and that will really give you an efficient and strong technique that you can use for bending, obviously also for finger vibrato, which we'll cover in another video, but all those good things. So anyway, obviously not the whole story, but maybe just a few tips to sort of help you break through if you're having trouble getting that technique established and making it a really solid, confident part of your technique. Okay.